Chapter 176. The sales lady walked up to Charlie and said, "Gentlemen, if you are not going to buy a house, please leave, and don't affect our other customers who are interested in the houses." Claire sighed, pulled Charlie's sleeves, and said, let's go, and take a look elsewhere." Others also started to roar, "Poor ghosts, go quickly, don't be embarrassed here." Charlie didn't move, and said with a smile, "Do you know why you can't afford to live in a villa? Because you are all short-sighted people. With your eyesight, it is impossible for you to live in a villa in this life." Harold sipped, "Bah! Charlie, you really have a face to say? Look at all of them, which one is not more rich than you?" Charlie raised his eyebrows and asked with a smile, "Harold, you keep saying that I can't afford a villa, so if I really can afford it, what shall you do?" Harold laughed a lot, pointed to the tallest high-rise building on the sand table, and said arrogantly, "If you can afford the villa inside, I, Harold, will jump off the top of this building." Many people around screamed, "Smelly pauper, if you can afford it, I will dance too." "That's it. If you want to jump, you can count me as well. I don't like this kind of stupid who likes to pretend." Claire never felt so embarrassed, and complained a bit to Charlie, and reprimanded, "Charlie, what do you have to do with them here? Do you have to be happy not to come to this place?" Charlie smiled slightly and said, "My wife, how do you know if your husband knows nothing?" With that, Charlie took out the villa key and the villa's access card from his pocket, and said lightly, "Look, this is the key and information card of the A05 villa." Wendy smiled and said, "Charlie, do you think you can make us believe you by just holding the key? You think we are too mentally retarded?" Charlie threw the key and the information card to the sales lady, and said lightly, "Come on, tell them if this is true." The sales lady recognized the key and information card that Charlie had taken out at a glance, and when she saw that they were exclusively for the Thompson Villa, she was shocked. Could it be that this person is really the owner of the villa area? She just wanted to kick him out. If he is really the owner, if he gets angry, her job will definitely be gone. Thinking of this, she took Charlie's information card in a panic, scanned the internal reader, and the reader immediately issued a computer voice, "Hi, distinguished owner of Building A05, Mr. Charlie, welcome to your home." The sales lady suddenly exclaimed, "Are you Mr. Charlie?" "Yes." Charlie nodded. It seems that the White family has already transferred this villa to this name. The sales lady immediately returned the card to Charlie with very respectful hands, and said in a panic, "Mr. Charlie, I'm so sorry, I didn't know you are the distinguished owner of Building A05. Please forgive me for what happened just now." Everyone present could not help but be stunned to see this scene. Charlie is really the owner here? Are you kidding me? Can this kind of person afford a Thompson first-class villa? Harold's expression is extremely ugly. What the H*LL is going on? Charlie buys Thompson's first-class villa? He would rather believe that there are ghosts in the world than that Charlie has this strength. But what's the matter with this sales lady? She can never lie, right? And she just scanned Charlie's card, and even the machine reminded Charlie to be the owner here. What happened? Chapter 177. Seeing that the sales lady was nervous, fearing that she would lose her job because she offended Charlie, Charlie waved his hand lightly, "Little things, I won't hold grudges." After speaking, Charlie said again, "By the way, you can tell these short-sighted guys about the A05 villa." The sales lady hurriedly said to others, "Our Thompson Villa area is divided into 4 types ABT, of which the best is the largest area of Type A, which has 3 floors above ground and 2 floors underground. There is a private elevator inside. The total usable area is more than 1,000 square meters, and it is equipped with hundreds of square meters of front and rear courtyards. The price is more than 100 million. It is the most expensive villa of our Thompson and even the entire Orris Hill." When these words came out, everyone's jaw dropped. Charlie owns a villa that sells for more than 1 billion, a 3-bedroom house with a dozen or so, and who is dressed in ordinary clothes, can actually have such a super luxury house. Harold's expression is extremely ugly. His sister and parents are going crazy with jealousy. Wendy asked incredulously, "Charlie, how come you have a villa here? Charlie smiled faintly and said, "Someone gave it to me, can't I have it?" "Why are you?" Wendy is really angry. Her heart is higher than the sky for her life, and she has no chance to live in the luxurious villa here. Why can Charlie live here? Charlie was too lazy to respond to her, but looked at her brother Harold, smiled and said, "Harold, didn't you want to jump off the building? When would you jump?" Harold's face was pale, extremely ugly, and clenched his fists and said, "Charlie, you King talk to me about these useless things. I still don't believe you can afford this villa. Not to mention that someone will give you the villa. Tell me, how did you come to this villa?" Charlie shook his head and smiled, and said to the people around, "If you see it, it means you can't lose." After speaking, Charlie said to Harold again, "Harold, with your ability, you are also worthy of buying a set of ordinary high-rises, so that people like us who live in villas can stand guard. You are not worthy of living in the villa, let alone know me. How did the villa come from? It's none of your business. All you need to know is that this is a place you can't afford to live in this whole life." "You?" Harold's expression was extremely ugly. It was the first time for him to be so insulted by Charlie, but the most hateful thing was that he couldn't even talk back. How to pay it back? He bought a 240 square meter building for his family, and the pressure was still a little bit heavy. The family was hesitant here, but Charlie actually had the largest villa here. The gap between them was really too big. It can be said that this time he was sturdy and satirized by Charlie. It really made him angry. He gritted his teeth and said with a black face, "Charlie, you can stand it. You don't want us to say hello to your home in such a big villa. Is there still the Wilson family in your eyes?" Charlie smiled and said, "Didn't you always say that I am not from the Wilson family? So, why do you want to say hello?" Having said this, Charlie turned to Claire, "Wife, as we are here, let's go to our new villa to see." Claire blurted out, "What the HLL is going on here?" Charlie smiled and said, "I'll explain to you slowly later." Just after speaking, he suddenly heard a familiar voice. "Oh, eldest brother and sister-in-law, are you buying a house in Thompson? It's amazing." Chapter 178. It was Charlie's mother-in-law, Elaine. Coming with Elaine is Charlie's father-in-law, Jacob. Charlie and Claire were a little surprised. Why did they both come here? Claire hurriedly stepped forward and asked, "Parents, why are you here?" Elaine said, "Your uncle and aunt called us, saying that they want to see the Thompson house, and let us come over and help them come up with ideas." When Elaine said this, she looked at Charlie, somewhat annoyed in her heart. In fact, she didn't want to come over at all, because she had just got angry with her daughter yesterday and said she wanted to move out of the old house, but unexpectedly, she received a call from Noah's family today and they asked her and her husband to come and show them the house. What house to see? Don't they just want to call them over to show them that they want to buy at Thompson? Elaine was uncomfortable with anger, but because she didn't dare not give face to the Wilson family boss, she had to rush over with her husband as a foil. That's why she was upset with Charlie in every way. If she finds a talented son-in-law, she might be able to live in Thompson first. At this time, she looked at her sister-in-law Horia with a flattering expression and said with emotion, "Sister-in-law, you are really amazing. You bought a house in Thompson in a blink of an eye. I really envy you. I don't know how long our family can live in that old house. From such a luxurious house like Thompson. What you bought is 240 square meters. I see if our family can't save so much money in 50 years. Although she was very upset with the eldest family, Elaine also knew that she had to slap them, so she came up with 3 horses. Harold's mother, Horia Chen's expression was extremely ugly. She glared at Elaine and said coldly, "Elaine, what do you mean by this? Do you look down on people?" Horia Chen's heart is almost exploded. She wanted to call Jacob and Elaine over and let them witness the purchase of a first-grade Thompson mansion with their own eyes, so that they had a sense of existence in front of them, and then satirized them again. But she didn't expect that the son-in-law has the ability. He actually got a Thompson first-class mansion villa. This is really maddening her, and she is also jealous of Death. Now that Elaine is here, she deliberately complimented her for buying a 240 square meter building. Isn't this a mockery of her? Your family has hundreds of millions of worth villa, and you still say you envy me. You also said that you can't live in such a luxurious house. Isn't this a curse? Elaine didn't know what was going on. She slapped Horia Chen's flattery when she came, but Horia Chen said that she looked down on people, and she was so wrong in her heart. The Lady Wilson licked her when she came, and she disliked her, of course. Look down on her? Does look down on her if she kneel? So Elaine hurriedly bites the bullet and continued flattering. Oh, sister-in-law, I am compared with you, that is, the candle meets the sun, and it is far behind. How can I look down on you? You see how good your life is. You're going to live in the Thompson first-grade house. Look at me again. I still live in the small broken house. Hey, our little broken house is really broken and rotten. How does it compare with your Thompson first-grade house? So of course I envy you. Horia Chen was even more irritated by what she tried to say something. She couldn't even speak her words. Her husband, Noah Wilson next to her, gritted his teeth and cursed. Elaine, is it interesting for you to blame Horia here? Isn't it just a villa? What are you bullish for? After that, he looked at his brother Jacob and said coldly, Jacob, am I still a brother in the eyes of you husband and wife? You have a villa and are calling ours big one. Jacob was stunned. Villa? What villa? Brother, are you going to buy a villa? So rich. Chapter 179. When Noah Wilson heard this, he suddenly thought that Jacob was deliberately running him with words, blowing his beard and staring angrily, and said, Jacob is okay, why do you say such things? Don't you just want to live in Thompson first-grade villa now? Isn't this just getting up with me? Jacob was stunned. What? I live in Thompson's first-class villa? Big brother, don't you always use me to ridicule me? Elaine was also confused. Brother, are you making a mistake? Is there any misunderstanding in this? Noah Wilson pointed at Charlie and said with a displeased expression, your son-in-law has made a reservation for first-class villa, let him talk about the specifics. Elaine and Jacob were both dumbfounded. They looked at Charlie in astonishment and asked with unbelievable faces, Charlie, what your uncle said is true. Did you really get a Thompson first-class villa? Charlie nodded and said, Parents, there is indeed a villa which is given to me by someone for helping him. Who gave it? Elaine blurted out with a look of ecstasy in her eyes. Charlie said, I helped a friend solve some feng shui problems, and he gave me a villa. Elaine was extremely excited and blurted out, take us to visit this villa. D*MN. Thompson's villa, I can't even dream of it. Claire pulled Charlie a hand at this time, and asked in a low voice, Charlie, what is going on? Charlie smiled slightly and said in a low voice, someone really gave me a villa. If you don't believe it, let's go and see it now. When Elaine looked at her eldest brother and sister-in-law again, she felt a sense of superiority in her heart. Okay. If you buy a large apartment, just follow me and let me come to accompany you to see the house. Now it's all right. I'm going to live in the Thompson Villa area soon. I've been pressed by you for such a long time. Turned over to be mastered. So she deliberately smiled and said, oh, eldest brother and sister, Harold and Wendy, since you are all here, why don't we visit this villa together, what do you think? Noah wished to leave immediately, but his wife Horia still grabbed him, winked at him, and said to Elaine, okay, in that case, let's go and see. As she said, she lowered her voice and said in her husband's ear, I will take some photos and videos later and show them to the Lady Wilson. If the Lady Wilson sees this villa, she will naturally ask them to come over. Is it not right? Noah Wilson's eyes suddenly lit up. It turns out that his wife has a working idea. It's wonderful. So Charlie took a group of people and walked into the villa area of Thompson. As soon as they entered the villa area, everyone kept looking around. The environment in the villa area was several times better than the high-rise residences outside, and it was extremely refined. Charlie, where is your villa? Wendy asked loudly on purpose. Charlie took the key, walked past Wendy, smiled and walked to the villa in front. This is the one, A05. Under the eyes of everyone, Charlie didn't change his face, took the key to open the door of the villa, and gently pushed. The door squeaked open to both sides, and the exquisite garden scene inside was immediately presented to everyone. Click! The door lock opened. Wendy was stunned. Harold and his parents were all dumbfounded. Claire also held her breath, rubbed her eyes vigorously with her hand, and looked forward. In the garden, there is a magnificent and spacious luxury villa in the middle of the garden with pavilions, flowers, and trees. This is too luxurious, right? Noah Wilson was the first to recover and exclaimed in shock. Harold's expression was very ugly, and he said angrily, "Who would give you such a good villa?" "I don't believe it." "You can't help it if you don't believe it, but this villa is indeed given to me." Charlie was too lazy to explain. Wendy glared at Charlie fiercely, hummed with anger, and said sourly, "Charlie, are you worthy of such an expensive villa?" Charlie smiled and said, "It has nothing to do with you." The crowd was silent in the open space at the gate of the villa. No one could think that the owner of the most expensive villa in Aurus Hill was actually Charlie. Chapter 180. Wendy and Noah were even more unacceptable of this reality, as if they were slapped in public, wishing to dig a hole in and bury themselves. The facts are breaking down. At this moment, an old master walked out of the villa. The old master came directly to Charlie and asked respectfully, "Hello, are you Mr. Charlie Wade?" Charlie nodded and said, "I am. Who are you?" The old master said, "Hello, Mr. Charlie, I am Mr. White's housekeeper, and I am responsible for taking care of this villa. You can call me Lebo. I usually take care of the villa and maintain hygiene." "Lebo?" Wendy on the side stared at him dumbfounded, her whole brain short-circuited. This Uncle Lebo, isn't this her fiancé Gerald's housekeeper? Why is he here? Does this villa belong to the White family? In that case, why give it to Charlie? Wendy hurriedly asked, "Lebo, what is going on? Is this villa owned by the White family?" Lebo said, "It used to be, but now it belongs to Mr. Charlie." With that, Lebo looked at Charlie again and asked, "Mr. Charlie, the decoration in the villa has not been completed yet. When do you plan to move in? I will let the workers do it faster and make preparations in advance." Charlie said faintly, "We will not move for the time being. You will continue to look after the villa. I will call you before I move." "Yes, Mr. Charlie." After Lebo finished speaking, he bowed to Charlie again, then let him aside, waiting for him to enter. Wendy's eyes almost popped out, and the whole group of Wilson family relatives was also surprised. The housekeeper of the White family? Wendy said dumbfounded, "Which White family is Gerald's family?" Charlie looked at her, smiled slightly, and said, "Yes, it's your fiancé Gerald's house. His father gave me this house." "What?" Wendy's brain exploded. This villa belongs to her fiancé's family? In other words, the original villa could have been hers in the future? But why would it be given to Charlie? "This is my villa." Wendy's parents were also very puzzled and angry at the same time. The White family is the daughter's future husband's family. The White family's villa is naturally for their daughter. Why is it given to Charlie? This is not logical. Haria Chen blurted out and asked Wendy, "Wendy, what's the matter with this? Do you know the White family villa?" Wendy shook her head repeatedly, "I don't know, I have never heard Gerald talk about it." Haria Chen immediately shouted, "Quickly call Gerald and ask. Ask clearly what's going on." "Yes, I must." Wendy immediately took out the phone and called Gerald. As soon as the call connected, she asked Gerald, "Gerald, does your family have a villa in Thompson?" Gerald said, "There is a set, what's wrong?" Wendy said with some dissatisfaction, "Why haven't you heard about it? Is it the wedding room for the two of us?" "No," Gerald said, "my uncle bought that villa for the elderly. He prefers the environment of Thompson, so how could he be willing to use it for us?" After speaking, Gerald asked again, "How do you know about this?" Wendy's aggrieved tears flowed out. Do you know, your uncle gave away this villa. Gave it away? Gerald blurted out, who gave it away? Wendy broke down and cried and said, gave it to Charlie. It's my rubbish brother-in-law Charlie.